Hi, I'm dream analyst Lainey Dolphin, and welcome to my Dreaminar. Do you wonder why you dream? In fact, when you dream, you're problem solving, and the dream is you having a discussion with yourself about a very specific current issue in your waking life that you're attempting to come to a conclusion about. And what I do is help people figure out what current issue triggered the dream. And once we know why you had a dream, we can look back in there and find the solution, which actually appears right in the dream. And once you know the solution, you can take it outside into your waking life and apply it to the current issue. So whether you remember them or not, you're still problem solving in your dreams. But if you know how to decode them, then you're going to propel your problem solving skills. And the prize you get is that you get to understand what the heck you're trying to say to yourself. And so we have Joe here who's going to share a dream. I'd like to introduce you. Hi, Joe.
Hi.
And so go ahead and tell us your dream.
Okay, so I'll read to the best of my ability what I wrote. I can't remember how the dream started, but I think I was following a recent ex-boyfriend into somebody's backyard, somebody unknown to me, where there were 3 small and deep outdoor pools. The pools looked like they were not yet cleaned up for the summer, as if they were still dirty from the winter. As we walked around, I saw my son come into the area wearing his swim shorts, and he wanted to dive into the pools. I wasn't sure at this point whether they were natural pools, because he seemed so comfortable to want to jump in. For some reason, I let him jump in, and right afterwards, an old friend appeared, I'll call him John, and he wanted to jump in also. Just as the friend was about to jump in, I noticed something large swimming through the water and immediately yelled at my friend not to jump in, and then I started chasing my son and yelling his name for him to come out of the pool, but he kept swimming his lap. I screamed as loud as I could and thought of jumping in, but he was too far ahead. I thought the animal in the pool was an alligator, and I screamed and screamed my son's name, but he didn't hear me, and he kept swimming. Just as I caught up to him and expected my son to come up for air, he went under, and he went under with this beast that I thought was an alligator, and I panicked, and I woke up, and I couldn't go back to sleep. I also remember having a very similar nightmare a few nights later, but I don't remember it exactly. What I remembered was waking up and thinking that it was the exact same theme as this dream. Something happened with murky water and a dangerous beast pulling someone or me down into it. And that's it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And so what you and I are going to do now, this part of the process, is I'm going to give you some clues about things that I would noticed about the dream that I would think about if it was my dream. It's interesting because I had a dreamer just a couple of days ago, and I explained something very similar about rote, which is R-O-T-E, and you might remember that from school. It's read it, write it, recite it. Read it, write it, recite it. And our subconscious works in a very similar way about learning. We learn because we repeat. And so when you're dreaming, you might, if your subconscious is trying to say something to you, it'll try it once in one way, and if that doesn't work, it does it again. And sometimes it does it again, and you'll get this repeat a few times in the dream. So that's going to be my first point of entry with you today. One of the things I wanted to say is that there's yelling. You said yelling 3 times. You said, I noticed something large swimming through the water, and I immediately yelled. And then I started chasing Max, yelling his name. And then later, when you thought there was an animal, that the animal in the pool was an alligator, you screamed. So there's like some screaming and yelling going on. So one of the things that you might think about is, like, if it was me, I'd be thinking about, did somebody yell at me recently in my life? Is the subject about a situation where I feel like yelling at somebody and I'm not speaking up? And so those are some situations that you could think about. Another thing that I thought about was that you said, like, the water is murky, and you seem surprised that you let Max jump in.
Yeah.
When you read the dream, that's what you kind of say, like your expression is altogether that you're not really sure why you let him jump into this pool, because it's not really, it's not like a pool that we would imagine that's all tiled and everything, right? It's in the earth.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in waking life, would you let Max jump into a pool like that?
Of course not.
Exactly. So that would be my second question to myself. What situation happened in my life recently, a situation where I jumped in somewhere that I probably shouldn't have jumped into, or that I was sorry that I jumped in, or
Yeah.
something that I thought was safe, and then because this animal appears in the dream. So, but at first when you told him yes, I guess you figured it was kind of okay. And that's what I would transfer to myself. What situation did I recently find myself in that I could even use the expression deep water, that I got myself into deep water, but I'm using—
It's very relevant, Lainey. It's a
Okay.
very relevant.
Okay.
Yes, I got it already.
Did you? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what situation the dream is addressing.
It's addressing getting out of a very difficult and painful recent relationship. It took me a long time to feel comfortable to enter into a relationship again after a divorce. Okay. And it was traumatic. So I think, now processing that end, I'm constantly questioning myself, because I feel like I knew and saw all the signs that it wasn't the right relationship for me, but yet I allowed myself to go forward.
You jumped in.
I did, completely, with both feet. And as I did it, going, what are you doing? So I feel like I'm very angry with myself for having allowed myself to go in there, but yet I did it anyway.
Now that we know what the issue is, we're going to look at different solutions that you actually present to yourself in the dream. There are certain dreams that are more Adlerian. And Alfred Adler, as opposed to looking into the past, Alfred Adler was always looking into the future. And he said that the dream gives rise to an emotion that helps you move forward towards the goal. And so in this case, one of the things that like literally screams at me is the rote, that there's yelling, and screaming going on. And the dreams also provide a safe place to rehearse, literally rehearse. So we rehearse, if you're a person who's not expressing yourself enough to friends, to family, to anybody, people that you're close with, about, let's say, because I'm going to use your language, about how angry you are at yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not coming out with that and you're holding it in, it's the exact same thing as having to pee, because we are human beings, and you can have to pee, and you can hold it in, and at a certain point you have to pee. And that's what a nightmare is. You hold in this certain anger or sadness or emotion or whatever's going on. You hold it in, and you give yourself a nightmare where it looks like your son is drowning or in some kind of serious trouble about being pulled under, because that's the situation in which you wouldn't even hesitate to scream. And so you get the rehearsal of screaming in the dream. And you might do that, by the way, over a period of time, where you have a series of nightmares in which you are often screaming. But if you're underreacting in your waking life and you're not expressing yourself and you are holding it in, the dream is going to have to give you an appropriate situation to help you move forward towards the goal. It's going to create that emotion. And it seems to have done that really successfully in this dream, so which tells me that you're very healthy. And have you ever heard the expression, been there, done that? Been there, done that. Well, that's what the dream is doing. So if you keep yelling, if you're yelling in maybe one dream or maybe 2 or 3 or 4 dreams, then the yelling, the expressing yourself, you're not going to end up yelling in your waking life. But if you speak about this situation to a friend more than maybe you have, and you get deeper, like the pool, you get into the murky water, like the dream is suggesting. So if you get down under with the emotion and you express it just a little bit, then you free up the energy that's tied up in the conflict. And then that would be what I would call a very Adlerian dream, because the dream is trying to get you to speak up to a friend, to express yourself about how you're really feeling inside. And that seems, that's kind of like the only way that we humans get through disappointment, crisis, and everything else. The healthiest way that we can get through it is by expressing ourselves. Once you take the problem outside and you start discussing it with people, maybe I'm going to give you one opinion about the breakup, and maybe somebody else that you know is going to give you another opinion. Now you're not inside your head anymore. Now you're brainstorming with people on the outside in your waking life, which will get you, and that's what the dream succeeded in doing, literally, because here we are discussing it. Right?
So I have troubles with that in general. So yeah, that makes sense.
So good. Why don't you tell me, what are the first 2 or 3 things that come to your mind about Max? He's your son, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's like
personality is he?
Max is me. Max is me in a young body. We are the same person, I swear to you. And so that's ironic, I guess, that I projected on Max whatever I was feeling.
Project is a beautiful, beautiful and correct word. So obviously you caught on to dream analysis very quickly, because so in other words, you have him behaving exactly the way you described yourself behaving in your waking life, because you said you knew that the relationship wasn't going to go far, and yet you jumped in anyway. And Max, even while you're screaming at him in the dream, he's
not listening.
I beg your pardon?
He's not listening at all.
Well, right. And that's what you're saying about yourself, that you didn't listen to yourself. So,
and I didn't mention this, Lainey, but the relationship lasted 3 years, and there's 3 pools. And I was just going to ask you, does that have any bearing?
Yes, that's connected. And that's what the dream does. It gives you clues about what you can do. Am I safe in saying that you may have used, because I have 4 daughters, and when I'm behaving more in whatever, it doesn't matter, whatever reaction I'm having to a situation, if I relate it to one of my daughters, it would be the younger version of me. So in other words, myself, the part of myself that behaves in an inexperienced way. And then it would make sense that you used Max. We could say that the inexperienced, wishful, hopeful, childlike part of your personality is the part that kept swimming and didn't pay attention to the listening.
Absolutely.
That's good. For me, dreams always present something positive. And we do a great job of hooking into the negative. And my job is to present the strengths that appear in the dream. And there's no question that it's a strength for you to be able to catch yourself. Next time you meet a guy, you're going to listen faster and harder, because of the lesson of not only the relationship, but the lesson of the dream resonates somehow. It stays with us, a dream. Once you have a dream that sticks with you and makes an impression, that's the job of the dream, that next time you see a guy you like, you're not going to skip over the step. How old is Max?
11.
11. So you're not going to skip over the part that an 11-year-old would skip over. Next time, you're going to be Joe, the adult. and you'll be listening more carefully to your intuition.
This is so encouraging.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm like relieved.
Tell me about John. Have you been friends with him for a long time?
Yeah, forever. And I assumed he was in the dream because I had met with him recently because he needed to give me advice on a trip that I was taking. So I figured maybe that's why he factored in the dream, because I had recently seen him and hadn't seen him in a while. So he just kind of got thrown in there. I don't know.
Well, no, but he didn't just, it's not random, because you just said that your association to him is that he goes back so far with you.
Yeah.
That the reason that you saw him recently was to ask his advice.
Yeah.
You picked John.
Mm-hmm.
And you picked him because you happened to ask his advice this week.
Yeah.
About something else, but it's about asking advice. That's the message.
I see. Okay.
How does that feel?
Yeah, I think you're very right. The people that I trust in my life that I do feel safe opening up to, luckily, are people that I've known my whole life. I only have a few of those people around me, and those are the people that if I were to talk about something, I would feel safe doing it with those people. Only people I know from like 25, 30 years ago.
Right. The part of the dream that frightens you the most, or that makes you feel the most uncomfortable, that's the part of the dream that you want to move closer to, because that is what Jung would have called your shadow. Frederick Perls from Gestalt therapy, he would have called it your underinvested aspect of your personality, your under-exercised part. And so that's why that's the part that's the least familiar. And it makes me want to ask you, are you the style of person when you're in a relationship? Are you like plays more the part of the beast? Hiding
I'm the caretaker.
You never know. I beg your pardon?
I'm the caretaker.
You're the caretaker. Hello. And so you want to get closer to that monster that's lurking underneath the water in your relationships. You want to be, so you're not going to become the monster or the person who has more the upper hand in the relationship, but you do not want to, you want to get closer to, or I should say, away from the victim thing and away from the caregiver thing.
Right. You're right. I'm working on that.
To that stronger part of yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
That's great. So that's the purpose. That's the biggest purpose of this dream, is to help you access a little bit of that monster, because that's who you need. That's the person, the monster that you want to get more in touch with, someone who's more, not that easy to pull something over on.
Yeah, you're 100% correct, Lainey. You're
good.
100% correct.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, very, everything you're saying fits very, very, it's very congruent with all the processes I'm going through on my own already. That's
great. So I guess I hope that it doesn't really feel like a nightmare anymore.
No, I was nervous for this call because I didn't know what was going to come out of it, but now I feel much, much more relieved.
Believe me, all of us have some part of we all have everything. We have the potential to be the victim. We have the potential to be the caregiver, the person who swims away, doesn't listen, the beast that's under the water. So we all have that. And the dreams are trying to get you in touch with the certain parts of your personality that you need at this particular time for this particular waking life situation.
It's amazing. I'm amazed. I have to say, I'm amazed. That's it's incredible, the feedback you're giving me.
I'm so happy, and
thank you.
Best part is it all came from you. That's the best. No, seriously. I mean, you wake up every morning with the best shrink you could ever find, right in your own subconscious. It's miraculous, actually.
I know, but I need you to help me understand it.
Oh, that's my pleasure. That's my pleasure.
Thank you, Lainey.
So thank you again for coming on the Dreaminar, and have yourself a great day.
Thank you, Lainey. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.